How's it going? I'm Ryan, and today I'm going to go over the three trades I took on NQ. My first two trades were losing trades. My last trade was a big winner that brought me to positive overall in the day. Um, Sort of broke my rules today. After two losses, I'm supposed to be done, but I had a pretty big losing day and decided to take one last trade and look to right the ship. The reason doing that is because especially my second trade was not really according to my plans. So that was just a stupid loss I shouldn't have taken in the first place. Um, but without getting too deep into that, I'm going to go over what I was watching today, and then we'll get into the trades. And I'll go over what I did right and what I did wrong. So we had a few levels today that we were watching. These are all based on volume profiles. So off the 8 hour, we had, and I should note that we have been making a move higher, right? We've been trending higher in the pre-market, set a little bit of a double top, and then started to sell off right before the market opens. So that's a little bit of context, right? We had a little bit of a double top, started to sell off. But what I was watching was we had a level here. If I pull up the 8 hour chart, we have a level of some resistance where we previously made a high and then sold off. That was around like 22,265 or so. We had a level that expect to act as support around 22,235. If you look at price action as well, so this is based off of volume, but also if you look at price actions where this candle opened up, where this candle rejected, and then where this candle kind of opened, wick to lower and held it. Same thing here. We have a level. This is, I believe, off the 4 hour charts. We'll get into that in just a second. The other 8 hour levels that we have are this level right here at 130, 22, 130. Same thing. If you look at price action here, we came up, we failed to close higher. We had pretty much a doji candle closing right at this level, and then the following candle opening and then moving higher. So an area that acted as resistance and then support. We also have stacked volume nodes here, which you can see. So that was an important level, and then a level to the downside. It's basically really big bullish move, bullish profile. So see a lot of demand in that area if we happen to push back down into there. Off the 4 hour, so I start at the 8 hour, I work my way down, I go 8 hour, 4 hour, 1 hour. That's how I get my levels. The 4 hour, we have same thing, that previous level of resistance. It's very clear on the 4 hour as well. We have that level. This level I mentioned, 22 to 40 or so, we'll call it, was based off of the 4 hour. We have stacked volume profiles here, one being support as we hold it, and then the other being kind of a level that we broke above as we moved higher. Additionally, the last thing is on the 1 hour. We have a little bit of stacked resistance up here. I didn't take the short, but we can see that on both moves to the high here, both rejections, we had that volume profile up in this area around 300, 310 or so. And then to the downside, and this is one that I kind of found intraday, because I had such a big gap between my levels. I had a level at like pretty much 22, 200, and then my next was at like 130 or so, so about a 70-point gap. I did find that we had a big explosive move to the upside. So you can see we had a big move to the upside, and then we kind of had a gap in volume, but what we did have is some stacked volume here. On this breakout, we got a breakout, a retest, and continuation, and we had some stacked volume profiles there on the 1 hour. So let's take a look. Coming into the day, pull up the 5-minute chart. Coming into the day, I was really just waiting to see what price wanted to do. If it wanted to hold one of these levels in reverse and try highs again, if we were going to reject and then make a lower high. So really it was just kind of being patient the first hour or so of the day, waiting for an opportunity to present itself. The first trade that I was thinking is when we made this big gap down, we had on the hourly intraday, we had a large move to the downside, and then we had that volume profile kind of right in the middle around 246. I also had a level around 240. So I like to see a lower high in this area for a shorting opportunity. We didn't get that. As we made our way lower, we started to hold this zone. And this is where I took my first trade, and it was pretty poor. And I'll talk about why. So I seem to have a bias to the upside a lot of these days. I'm more often looking for longs than I am shorts. On a day like today, shorts would have been a little bit more reasonable as we were trending down, and that's, you know, in favors to trade with the trend. But we came down and we held this level. We bounced once, we bounced twice, and we came down testing it for a third time, and that's when I entered long. I like this idea because entering long, well, I like this idea, wrong timing though. I like this idea because entering long here, you can see that my stop loss was, I could place my stop loss below low a day and have pretty minimal risk. I could have my take profits just below this level and just above it. So it's a move that we've already seen happen twice, right? Like this bounce here would have hit both take profits. This bounce here would have hit both take profits. Really, it's just looking at trading this range between this zone here from like 160 to 170. Trading this zone as support up until that 200 zone as resistance. Now the idea itself is good, but the reason why it didn't work out is because it had already done this move twice, right? We'd come down, we'd done it once, twice, and then I entered on the third time. Additionally, if you look at the previous 5-minute candle before I entered, this is my entry on my first trade, you can see that it was quite bearish as opposed to the previous candles wicking into this area and holding it quite well, whereas this candle closed lower than all the previous candles and looked quite bearish on increased volume. So that was a pretty good sign, as well as if I'm looking at the 5-minute volume profile. Excuse me, we'll pull this up. If I'm looking at the 5-minute volume profile, what I'm seeing here is a close below that volume profile on that 5-minute, right? As opposed to say like these candles previously where that volume profile, especially this one, probably was the better opportunity because we'd come down, we'd tested, formed new lows, swept that liquidity, closed higher than the point of control as well, and then we got a nice little bounce. But that was not necessarily the case here. We had some obvious signs of weakness that I apparently just disregarded. So we got a little bit of a bounce, right? You can see where I entered. It almost actually hit my first take profit from where I entered was right in here. We were just a few points shy of hitting my first take profit, and then it reversed and stopped me out. That was my first trade. My second trade was the same idea. After we came down and held this level and we started to make our way back up, what I wanted to see was a break above this zone, because if you're looking at the volume profiles, we have a lot of stacked volume kind of right around like 170. And then from there, we would expect price to go up to that like 200 level and move basically from liquidity to liquidity. But I entered prematurely. One of my rules is no breakout trades. This was a trade anticipating a breakout. So that was a miss on my part, right? I didn't really have any reason to buy this. Additionally, if we look at the previous 5-minute candle, we have that long upper wick, and then we have that profile, that volume up at the top of that. So closing below that volume, indicating that there was selling volume here that prevented price from going up any higher, right? So entering immediately after that was pretty foolish. I didn't have, I don't trade breakouts. I shouldn't be trading breakouts. It's not a part of my plan, as well as I was kind of ignoring price action and volume profile. So these first two trades were not great. I think maybe I was just feeling eager to get back into trading after the long weekend, not taking any trades yesterday. So those two were just bad trades. Funny enough, my third trade was my best trade, and I entered it with twice the usual size. So this was breaking my rules. I entered with more size, and I took a third trade after having 2 losing trades. However, this is the trade that I felt the most confident about and ended up having a much bigger winner because I was able to hold through and capture a larger move. It was actually, this is probably the one trade I should have taken and just skipped the previous 2. Let's take a look at it. I had this level around 135 that I'd mentioned. We'd come down, we'd held it. We failed to break out here, but then we came down and retested, formed a higher low, and started to look quite bullish in terms of volume and volume profile. So if we look at the 5-minute volume profile, you see all that volume is holding down here around this level. Same with this, these candles, those volume profiles are pretty low before we get that bounce. We see the same thing here. We see on the 1 minute, we see good volume. We see us holding this level. So I entered long right here. Once we started to push up and look nice and bullish, I entered another position. So I added to my winning position at this point. I was already up, I entered around 40. This is around 60. I was already up 20 points and I doubled my position size. So this is not, I don't recommend it. I mean, you can add to winners for sure. That's a valuable strategy, but normally I wouldn't, especially on a losing day as I had today. But I knew that I had some ground to make up after 2 losses. And I felt that this trade was going to be a winner, so I wanted to kind of maximize what I could out of it. So I entered 2 here. Stop loss, didn't alter the stop loss. Stop loss was pretty much at low day, you can see there. What I did change was my take profit. So my first take profit, I moved to 40 points as opposed to 30. And then I had runners with pretty lofty goals. And then my second position, I had my take profit up here as well. So I had sell 5 here, sell 5 here. I had another runner here, and then I had another runner up here. Basically just looking to target, a nice 30 or 40 point move on my first trim, and then take runners at the next available levels that I had. So I had 1 runner take here, and then 1 runner up here. I will say when I added into my position, it was pretty much in profit immediately. So in doing so, once we moved into profit, I had my stop loss at break even. That allowed me to essentially have double my position size with very minimal risk, because if anything, they would have just got stopped out for a few points of profit. Not trying to justify it, but I at least was semi-conscious of my risk on that trade. As it worked out, it hit my first take profit, my second take profit, my third take profit. My final take profit was up here at like 240 if we really started to reverse and make a move up. But we didn't get that. We rejected off this level, came down and hit my stop. I was just trailing my stop because my entry was, my average price was somewhere around like 150. So I started to trail my stop once I was up, 40, 50 points. I didn't necessarily want to give that up, even if it was a single contract. So this pullback stopped me out. But here's something that I want to kind of go over for my own sake, is just the importance of aligning higher time frames with lower time frames. We can see like on the 1 hour, we came down, we wicked this zone and then held the following candle. We had some opportunities for a bounce. Even if we were trending down overall, there's still some opportunities to the upside. Similarly, this second hourly candle, if we look at the volume profile of that, it's a nice hammer. It tests both this zone here and this level here, closing higher. We see that the majority of volume is right at this zone that we'd act as support, expect to act as support. And we get that nice bounce out of there, about a 50-point move. So there's opportunities if I'm patient, and that was my issue on my first 2 trades today. Other than that, just like I said, watching the 15-minute, watching the 1 hour, making sure these time frames align. It did get me on a little bit on my first trade, because on the 15-minute, we had a hammer, we held support, had another hammer, held support. And then as we tested that zone again, I expected it to hold, and it didn't. But overall, the trend was still down. We were forming still lower lows and lower highs. So that's my bad. That's just me misreading and trading inaccurately. Other than that, I'm pretty happy with how these zones are playing out. You see some pretty accurate price action around these areas. It's just up to me to trade better and to make the most of it. But those are the 3 trades I took. Complete transparency, I did break some rules today. I had a bigger loss than I wanted to take, and I doubled down on a winning trade to make it all back and more. We were up 240, we'll say 239.50. So a good winning day, but it came with some consequences, I suppose, in terms of just mentally not performing as well as I'd like to. So that's been a common theme, I think. last 2 weeks it was patience. Today I think I was overly patient, and to the point where I missed my opportunity, and then realizing that I might have missed my opportunity, I tried to force things. So it's going to really just be a mix of being patient but not being so patient that I miss an opportunity and then get FOMO. So we're still working to figure this thing out. Account's still growing. We're about half, no, not quite halfway, a little under halfway to hitting that payout profit target. So if I can reel things in and trade a little bit better, I'm looking to hit that hopefully by the end of this month or early next month. That's all I got for you. I appreciate you watching. Thank you very much. I do stream live Monday through Friday. If you want to stop by and hang out, feel free. I'd love to have you. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace.